and welcome to this webinar of the Next GEO's webinar series. Today, we are going to talk about Earth observations and equality, diversity, and inclusion. My name is Bente Lilja Bye. I'm going to be your host as usual, but today I have with me, on the day of the International Women's Day, I have with me this wonderful panel of women experts from the Earth observation community. You will get to know them more soon. Before we really start, I want you to pay attention to the chat. You can ask questions and comment in the chat box to the right-hand side on your screen. We very much welcome your input. Any kind of input will be welcome. We have 6 very short presentations, some shorter than the others or longer than the others. Today, in between, you may ask questions, or we will have a Q&A at the end where we want to engage with you. It depends a little bit on how you are responding to what you hear. We think that this webinar will last about 1 hour. Approximately, so plan your time accordingly. During the webinar, I will also ask you some questions in some very simple polls, so we kindly ask you to respond to them. I will let you know what the result is in between the presentations. So before we really start, I want to introduce our ladies by first, as usual, talk about the weather. So, ladies, let's hear what the weather is like. And the audience is also asked to give us a report of the weather where they are. So I will start with you, Diana. Where are you and what is the weather like?
Hi, thank you very much. I'm currently based in Prague in Czech Republic, and spring is coming, so it's starting to get warmer. Nice.
Allison.
Hi, good morning from Los Angeles, California. I would say that it's usually sunshiny and in general a pretty nice place to live, and our hummingbirds have been quite active lately, so nice to be here.
It's a good day. Yes, thank you. Early morning. Celine. You're muted, Celine. Still, it looks like you're still. Celine, I think you need to leave the room and enter again in order to make your sound alive again. Okay, Andiswa.
Hi, Bente, and hello, ladies, and hello to the participants. So I'm dialing in from Hermanus. It's a small little town in the west coast of South Africa, and it's known as the whale coast, you know, like we get the whales, except it's not the right time of the year. So, but I am facing the ocean and it's a bit chilly. I would have loved for it to be a nice sunny day today, but today it's a bit chilly. It feels like winter is coming. We are getting close. We are getting close to winter. So it's a winter day.
It's a winter day. And yeah. Phoebe, you are also muted. Still muted, but maybe Celine can be heard.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So Phoebe, I think you have to do like Celine, leave the room and come back in again. Okay, Celine.
Sorry for that. I'm based in Mexico City. So spring is here. Usually it's very warm, but today it's a little fresh and cloudy.
A little fresh and cloudy, yes. And we will hear from Phoebe soon. Meanwhile, I will say where I am and what the weather is like. As you can see, there's a bit of sun here. And but we started the day with some snow because I'm in the Arctic. The weather is changing every minute here. Still more winter than summer. So we are going the other way around than you are in Africa. Well, Phoebe is not here, but Andiswa. We are going the other way around. And Wanushi says warm and sunny in Pretoria, South Africa. And Elena has a sunny day in Lisbon. So welcome all of you. We will get Phoebe back, I'm pretty sure, but I think we need to start the program. So today we will introduce how Earth observation, the group on Earth observation is addressing equality, diversity, and inclusion. But before we start on that, I want to remind you what we mean by Earth observation. By Earth observations, we mean all types of observations and monitoring of our planet, going all the way from satellites out in space to actually the inner part of the Earth. So some of the data will be satellite data, some will be captured by planes, meteorological balloons, all the way to, for instance, tide gauges, what we call in situ data, and also we also actually encompasses information about the Earth. So that's what we mean about Earth observation. That was Earth observation in this context is this. And this is the concept that the group on Earth observation, which is a organization, a global organization comprised by more than 100 governments and even more so-called participating organizations, such organizations like the UN or the European Space Agency and so on. So we are a big family in the group on Earth observations. And I would like to say that one of the key things we are doing is, of course, advocating Earth observation and use of Earth observation so that we can inform decisions for the benefit of society at large. And we are particularly advocating open data sharing. This is the profile of Earth observation. So keep that in mind when you are hearing about our work. And many of us, most of us here are actually members of the GEO group, subgroup on equality, diversity, and inclusion. And you will learn about this. We will start by introducing the concepts that we are using and that Allison will do, because we have actually a logo, so you will get it explained from Allison. Then we will talk about more policy statements, and that will be Andiswa who is doing that. Then we will also learn how we can assess and monitor these activities related to equality, diversity, and inclusion. And finally, but not last, we get an example of how that can be implemented and addressed in AfriGEO in this case, and also that by Phoebe. And the last speaker, but not the least, Diana, will speak to how we are engaging with the indigenous people, so truly aiming to be to promote equality, diversity, and inclusiveness. So with that, Allison, I give the floor to you. The others will turn off our cameras while you are speaking and introducing us. Introduce yourself a little bit more than the weather and take it away. Allison, the floor is yours.
Yep. All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you all. My name is Allison Craddock. I'm the director of the International GNSS Service Central Bureau, and I also have the pleasure of serving on the GEO Program Board as a representative of the International Association of Geodesy. And so it's been a really interesting experience to be able to sit down with a very diverse group of people through the GEO Program Board and talk about what equality, diversity, and inclusion really means to our organization and how we can make sure that we're doing the best that we can to encourage it. And so one of the things that we looked at is the GEO mission, to how to unlock the power of Earth observations by facilitating their accessibility and application to global decision making within and across many different domains. And of course, the word accessibility especially really rings, is a very resonant word in what we think about in terms of equality, diversity, and inclusion. And so through a series of discussions, we were able to identify a 5-pillar framework that outlines a vision of equality, diversity, and inclusion in every aspect of GEO. And what we go through, what we arrived at were oversight and accountability to make sure that we're keeping an eye on what the state of what kind of like health checks on how equality, diversity, and inclusion is being implemented throughout the GEO work program. We look at community leadership and advocacy. How do we make sure that we're ensuring that things are best related to our broader community? We want to create a welcoming environment, make sure that people feel comfortable joining in various GEO work. We want outreach and engagement to ensure that communities are best informed of our work and feel that they are involved at various levels. And of course, getting back to the word from the GEO mission, empowerment through accessibility. How do we make sure that we are giving people the tools that they need to access all of the resources that our work is working so hard to be able to make openly available? And so we wanted to have some sort of a visual identity, some means of celebrating the aspects of GEO that are really making best use of the 5 pillars that we just discussed. And so we have this logo that you see here in concert with the GEO logo. And as you see, this version of an EDI logo uses a combination of a solid orange equal sign inscribed that is dimensionally fits into the E. So if you imagine, you could actually plug the equals into the E, and they would match up. So we have an orange equal sign, and then we have a yellow delta arrow, kind of a dynamic delta. And we know that in mathematics and the sciences, the Greek delta often is the symbol of change. And then we have it pushing into the pillar I of inclusion. And one of the things that we also looked at is that what do colors mean? And we know that there are GEO branding colors, so that those were designed to be complementary to the GEO brand overall. But we also looked at color psychology, which is an interesting subset of marketing, and that we look at how orange can sometimes evoke confidence, success, bravery, and sociability, and that yellow can be used to signal creativity, happiness, warmth, and cheer. And then finally, the green, which is also the GEO logo green, we see that it stands for nature, healing, freshness, and quality. And so moving forward with this, we hope that use of this special logo will be a way of celebrating the wide variety of contributions that we do have within GEO, and making sure that people are aware of how we are implementing equality, diversity, inclusion across these 5 pillars. And back to you, Bente.
Thank you very much, Allison. So as you can tell, this is very well thought through, and I think it's an appealing story. And you will learn more about what you were introducing here, Allison, by Andiswa. And I think we go straight to you, Andiswa, to follow on what Allison said. If you have questions, don't hesitate. Ask questions in the chat box. We will pick up those questions quickly. Yes. Let me see. I think we will. Andiswa, are you there? Are you there, Andiswa?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am here. Thank you very much, Bente, and thank you very much to Allison. Let me see if I can share my slides. If you can sort of like guide me there, Bente, to say yes, we can see your slide or not.
we can see your face and use the possibility, the opportunity to ask you to say a few words about yourself before you start also. We were about to see a slide, by the way.
Okay. So my name is Andiswa Mlisa, and I am the Managing Director for Earth Observations at the South African National Space Agency, and I'm also a member of the GEO program board and in the subgroup for equality, diversity, and inclusion. So, yeah, it's quite good to be sharing some of the work that the subgroup has been doing with the participants in the webinar, and hopefully we get feedback. So let me see if I'll win with the sharing. So I'm using a different program now. So
we saw something on the way when you.
Okay, is that it now?
Nope, you haven't shared yet.
Oh, that's so. Okay. So I don't know how Chrome works with this. So let me see. Okay.
Now you can pick your. I see you pick yes, right? You are on track. You are on the.
So can you see that I've picked the slides?
Yes, but you haven't shared your. Can you put it? Yep, presentation mode. Let's see what happens. Yes, perfect. Hide. Click the hide button, and you're good to go on this one.
You're saying I click the hide document? The hide.
Hide document. Yeah. Yes. No. You clicked the wrong one.
Sorry about that. So I'm gonna have to go back.
Now it's fine. Now it's fine. No. Here.
So you can see that. Okay. So I can't see the window anymore. I just see my presentation.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Okay, perfect. So I think, yeah, Allison, thank you very much. Has done actually quite a bit of the intro for me. The logo is, I would like to think the logo is fantastic, and the explanation Allison has provided. So one of the things that as the subgroup we tried to capture was the essence that GEO values equality, diversity, and inclusion, specifically so for ensuring the successful utilization of Earth observation, to make sure that we address the challenges that we face, whether you're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals or you're talking about the National Developmental Agenda. And most importantly is that this occurs in an environment where everyone has a sense of belonging, and this sense of belonging enables them to share ideas and experiences, and of course foster innovative solutions, because that's exactly what we're needing to do to make sure that there's the uptake for Earth observations. Allison has touched on the GEO mission, which talks to unlocking the power of Earth observations by facilitating the accessibility and application to global decision making. And already when you're looking at this mission, you can already start seeing where we're talking about equality in terms of accessibility and for all global decision making. So it's not just specific and to one area. And also we talk about across many different domains. So we're not just looking at in one aspect. And that is in a way the power of Earth observations itself. Our five pillars form a outlines quite well the vision that equality and diversity and inclusion are considered by GEO in the aspect of meeting that mission that we've put forward of unlocking the power of Earth observations. And maybe one of the most important things around organizations is putting in place policy statements is because when it comes to issues of equality and diversity and inclusion, we need to be intentional. And this is what a policy statement does. A policy statement puts out a very clear intention by the organization in terms of what its position is. And from the policy statement, you then have to follow with activities. On the other hand, is that those who belong to the organization, once the policy statement is put out and has been endorsed at the highest level of authority within the organization, then they feel that they belong, and they feel that they're accepted for who they are, and they feel that they can bring all of who they are into the organization, and that is okay, and that is encouraged. So the work of the subgroup was to actually come up with this. The first part of our work, we thought we need to have this policy statement as GEO and get it endorsed at the highest level. So as we speak now, it's waiting to be reviewed by our executive committee. It's already gone through past the mid levels of approvals, and we are quite encouraged that it's going to receive a positive feedback. Once that is done, once the organization has put that out, then everyone within the community that actually works within the diversity and inclusion and equality space would then feel that the work that they are doing is actually recognized by the organization, and that encourages more to be done in this area. So in terms of what these pillars stand for, first and foremost, as I said, these are drawn out of the vision and the mission statement of GEO in terms of who GEO is. First, we start with oversight and accountability. And here we're looking at what is GEO put forward. So in this case, we have created an equality, diversity and inclusion subgroup to support the strategic aim of developing GEO as an institution that provides fair, supportive, and encouraging networking environment, because one of our greatest powers as GEO is the convening power, right, that we have. So that's the first element. And through the diversity, the EDI subgroup, as we call it, we would be taking the necessary audits, and we would also be influencing how the rest of the pillars are implemented throughout the GEO institutionalization. The second one is community leadership and advocacy. Here we're talking about our commitment to increase the awareness within Earth observations community of the benefit of inclusive participation by people from all sectors, going again to our vision, including government institutions, civil society, private sector, non-governmental institutions, academic and research institutions, and also the men on the street, because our products are also meant for the men on the street. We then will go to creating a welcoming and supportive environment. It's very interesting in how such a small statement carries so much weight, because if we do not hit this one, where we strive to maximize diversity in all GEO governance structures, including meetings, events at all times. So we're not saying in a specific meeting, we will try and have equality applied. We're not saying we will have diversity only at executive level. We're saying at all times. This is what we need to be striving for. Outreach and engagement. Here we proactively engage a diverse set of stakeholder communities to understand their needs through the GEO work program, the regional GEOs, and we're going to hear from the regional GEOs now, and the GEO communication channels, as well as national and participating organizations. If we do not, through our engagement and the outreach, listen to those who are coming on board, if we do not give them the opportunity to feel the sense of belonging, we cannot say we've achieved EDI. Then we're looking to empowerment through accessibility. For us who've been with GEO for a long time, and those actually who are coming in, one of the things that is very attractive with GEO is that we advocate for and deliver on transparent and standardized accessibility to open Earth observations data, information, and knowledge through the Global Earth Observation System of Systems. This is one of the reasons why this global community was started to start with. So without having taken anything away from who the geo strategy says, who the geo vision says, what the ministerial mandate has been given to us. With EDI, we're actually looking to strengthen all of that and to encourage more participation and to encourage more belonging. But we cannot do this alone. So to drive these 5 pillars and to continuously ensure that we're living these 5 pillars, we invite you to join us in creating a fair, supportive, responsive, and inclusive GEO community. Thank you very much, Bente.
Thank you, Andiswa. Inspiring words indeed. Let's see. I will check if we have some questions. No. Don't be shy. We will be able to answer your questions if you write them in the chat. I did actually include a link to more information about GEO and what GEO is doing. And I say we then because all of us here are members of the GEO community, the family, and I don't assume everybody knows, or actually sometimes we need to consult and see what we all agreed on. And this way you were definitely resonating with me when you said to begin with, it was all about making data easier accessible, in a short word that you concluded with. Do we have any questions? No. I did a poll, by the way, a very quick poll. I asked you if your organization have any policy statement on these issues, so equality, diversity, inclusion. And I see that 80% says yes, of course, and 20% do not know. So no negative in this round. Yes, I think we move on, Andiswa, unless you have more to add when on your presentation. You're mute, perhaps.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes. I think maybe to just add that the policy statement is but the start of our work as a subgroup, but it forms the solid foundation for the work that we do going forward. And once the policy statement is accepted, it makes it that much more visible. The work that we're doing, it's not something that's being done on the side and only being done to tick a box. It actually gets to be how we live as the GEO community. Yes, and so we're looking forward to influencing the rest of the GEO business as we're going forward. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you were quite clear on that. This work that we are doing in this subgroup is actually enhancing what we want to achieve with GEO at large. So it's been already a quite thorough process in the community. But as you said, the final decision on the final wording is still in the making. But we definitely have worked hard on this and engaged many different people in the process. Okay, so let's now move on and learn about how we are thinking about, monitoring and assessing this type of work. So Celine, I give the floor to you. Introduce yourself quickly first so that we get to know you a little bit, and then inform us.
Thank you, Andiswa and Allison, for your presentation. So I'm Celine Jacquin. I'm an advisor at the INEGI. INEGI is the National Institute of Statistics and Geography in Mexico. I'm advisor at the Vice Presidency of Geographic Information, Environment, Territory and Urban Planning. I'm also an activist for years at GEO, for example, and communities that try to enhance women leadership in the sector. So thank you. I'll share my screen now.
Yes.
So can you confirm if you see it?
We see it.
Fantastic. So my speech consists in presenting the first ideas of an assessment framework for GEO on equity, diversity and inclusion. And that's part of the mission we have in this group of equity, diversity and inclusion subgroup. And it's a tool that we will be developing for this year. And we hope we'll be able to have a functional framework for GEO in the future. So, and that will be able to reflect best experiences. So as Andiswa said before, the subgroup started with a statement, and I'll underline some of the main points that interest this initiative. So one of the important value here is the diversity of thought and life experience of people that are members of such an organization. The development of a dynamic, diverse and inclusive Earth observation community where everyone is given the opportunity to participate and to benefit. And that all GEO community members are valued and appreciated for their unique viewpoints and collaborative contributions to the vision and mission of GEO. Yeah, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, I hear noises. A mandate of GEO mission is to unlock the power of Earth observation by facilitating their accessibility and application to global decision-making within and across many different domains. So that states actually the need of diversity in the network. For this mission, the subgroup will make recommendations and audits for to GEO governance and administration. So we are here interesting ourselves to the first 3 points of this graph: oversight and accountability, community leadership and advocacy, and creating a welcoming environment. So through these recommendations, through increasing the awareness of the benefits of inclusive participation by people from all sectors, areas of expertise, personal and professional profiles, and also maximizing diversity in all GEO governance structures, including meetings, events, and any type of activities that GEO develops. So the context of the framework we want to develop is that more and more organizations are also developing frameworks to ensure diversity in their actions, in the knowledge they produce, and in the relationship they develop with partners. Also, more organizations understand that this change comes first from within, from their organization, how they work, how they treat with colleagues, etc. And they promote diversity in their own mechanisms. And also, we propose to develop an introspective framework for GEO and similar networks at large international organizations to self-assess, monitor evolution over time, and communicate this evolution and this data as a way to invite more organizations to follow this trend. So we want to participate in this trend. So what we propose, and I repeat, is just the first lines of this work, are 3 components. And they are about production, compilation, and presentation of data about the diversity in the network. It's about tools to improve equity and inclusion, and it's about mechanisms for continuous self-evaluation of the groups and the activities. So examples of the points that we consider important to develop in each components are this explained in this list. So a compilation and balance of actions within the organization related to improving diversity. So in these specific points, I will invite all the public to share experiences with us. They can share it in the chat or after the webinar. We would like to compile and systemize the all sources of data on the characteristic of participation in the activities of GEO and any organization. Develop a baseline and tools for long-term monitoring of the diversity and inclusion applicable by different parties. Also, a qualitative research guideline, easy to develop in the organization to detect and understand the mechanism of exclusion, discrimination, or sometimes it's just demotivation that avoid people to participate. We'd like to develop mechanisms and tools to display and open the data produced, correctly anonymized and aggregated, and have tips to develop to help insert these actions into the administrative functions of the organizations. In the second component, we think it's important to have toolkits and etiquette codes so that each group and activity applies and sensitize their participants about inclusive behavior in, again, any type of activities. It can be webinar, it can be just meetings, summit, etc., but also all the mechanisms of work and collaboration, tools to generate a welcoming and inclusive environment anytime, tools to facilitate participation and participants from underrepresented groups, and also underrepresented profiles in these underrepresented groups, and tools to access trainings and strengthen skills in the sector. And in the third component, we think it's important to have permanent and periodic spaces for reflection and feedback on all the problems detected through these research guidelines, feedback on the information gathered, as well as the initiative itself and all the components and the tools. So we would love to hear from your experience, from the experience you know, from the feedback you can have and the balance you can have on all these experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Celine. I have just posted a poll in the chat. Meanwhile, I just want to emphasize what Celine asked you. We are really interested to hear and learn from you. If your organization is doing something related to what Celine was just describing, it's really important for us to learn. It will be very valuable. So please give us some indications in the chat. At least you let us know what organization you represent, where you work. That will also be very helpful. If you just write your organization in the chat, that will be very helpful. And I see now so far, Celine, we have the answer to the question, does your organization monitor access, equality, diversity, inclusion? We have 60% saying yes, an integral part of administration. Nobody has said no, and there's 40% saying I do not know. So it seems like in this case also, it's most of the participants in this webinar at least have some activities related to equality, diversity, and inclusion, including assessing and monitoring. So let's see what, we'll check the chat. If there are any questions. No, you seem to be very shy today. Anything else you want to add? Of course, your slides will be made available, right, Celine?
Sure. Yes. Sure, of course. I would just like to see this initiative as an open conversation and a permanent conversation between organizations, as a way to grow together, right?
Yes, I think everybody's learning here. I think everybody's learning about this. Gradually, it's a lot more discussions on these issues than I've seen for many, many years. Not many people know this about me, maybe, but I used to be working for the Research Council on recruiting women to science, mathematics, science, and medicine. And the reason why I was giving this work was that I had a very special experience as the first woman in 20 years or something going to the Institute of Theoretical Astrophysics. So
Wow.
it's been, yes, it's been you know, including in this case, particularly women in this STEM, has been around for a while, but I really do feel that we are getting more professional addressing these issues now. So that's good. Anyways, let us know where you come from in the chat. That's the beginning, and we can continue with Phoebe and hear an example of how you are addressing this in your region in AfriGEO. So Phoebe, can you let us know a little bit more about you before you reveal what you're doing in AfriGEO?
Yes, so in AfriGEO, we play a key role in trying to guide countries in terms of utilization of Earth observation in decision-making processes, and also to ensure that the initiatives that are being implemented by GEO are actually addressing African issues, and seeing how we can downscale this to national levels where we are benefiting as countries. So I lead the AfriGEO Secretariat as a point of contact, and I also support the survey program as a thematic lead for land cover and land use. All right, so I'll go to my presentation.
Yes.
I have to share my screen.
Yep. You're on your way.
Uh-huh. Do we have the full screen now?
We have the full screen, and you were about to click on that. Yes, perfect. You're good to go, Phoebe.
Yes. So I wanted to start this presentation with my most insightful message for the day, and what International Women's Day is aiming at is the restoration of human dignity that has been lost by socio-political, religious, and cultural systems that have denied women a chance to contribute to development of the society in their own way. And I know we can all relate to this particular message because we've seen the discrimination and the bias in one way or another. So when we talk about gender equality, diversity, and inclusion, we have certain issues that are really prominent in Africa. So when we talk about issues relating to gender-based violence, this is almost everywhere in the world. We have very biased rights to education opportunity, opportunities also at work, and also access to information from one region to another. Then in Africa also, particularly the women are viewed as the silent voice. There are places you go to and they do not expect you as a woman to speak and make your opinion known to people. We also have issues related to land ownership and inheritance. Many communities in Africa are still suffering with this. Others have allowed inheritance for the women. In other places, it's not heard of even. Then we have the roles that we have to play as women in the society and family, and this include nurturing and birth, and sometimes it's all these challenges can set us back. And there are many rural communities also in Africa that still suffer the challenge of menstruation, where the girls have to stay off school for a while. We have lost opportunities where some women, because of the roles they have to play in society, will not accept certain roles and certain job positions because it's either choosing between their jobs or their family. Representation in top management position. I think many assessments reveal that most of these top positions and leadership positions are occupied predominantly by men. And the participation also in STEM and STEM related careers is also not very popular with girls particularly. And then we have the exclusion of minority groups. So what do the stats say? So I picked this graph from the World Education Forum report for 2020 that is looking at the global gender gap. And it's using 4 indicators, that is health and survival, education attainment, economic participation, and also on political empowerment. And you see, as far as health and education is concerned, we're almost closing that gender gap. However, when we come to things like political empowerment, it's really doing so badly, and also on economic participation. And this really speaks to one of the issues I raised on who is occupying those top management positions. I also looked at the performance of African countries, and you notice that in terms of closing the gender gap index for most of this globally, only 16 countries in Africa are being featured in the top 100, and this is out of the 153 countries that were able to participate in this ranking. For other countries, there is no data. So we're not doing as where we want to be in as far as addressing the gender gap. We have at least some of the African countries featuring in the top 20, which is good. But when we look at these statistics much more critically, you realize that even the countries that are performing very well still are not closing the gender gap as far as education is concerned. For instance, in the case of Rwanda or in Burundi, the same thing on education, the performance is still really low. So as we get to understand all these issues, what is it that we are doing? And in GEO, we have the subgroup on EDI that has created this wonderful pillar and framework that is going to provide guidance on how, as GEO, we want to address equality, diversity, and inclusion, and what we are going to be doing to address these particular issues. I don't want to belabor on this because we've already spoken about the 5 pillars, but also when we look closely home in Africa, what is it that institutions are doing? So for us to be able to address gender issues, we must be able to do a lot of sensitization. Sometimes the biasness is because we have accepted the discrimination to be part of us, and nobody is really paying attention on where these biases are occurring. We need to have very strong policy and strategy that supports EDI. We also need to ensure that we have equal opportunities and ensure that there's gender representation in leadership position. Much more closely is to ensure that in all the services that we provide, we are mainstreaming gender. So are we paying close attention into looking at this particular service? What are the gender issues around it, and how are we going to be addressing that as an institution and as AfriGEO? Further, we've also been participating in mentorship. So mentorship for women through Women in Science, through space challenges, and also looking up to like the glorious women in this panel as women mentors. We all have different accolades that we can look up to and also see how, as women, we can learn from each other. There's also the component of women empowerment. So how do we ensure that there's access to education, financing, and opportunities? And this calls into making sure that they're represented. So whenever it is we have opportunities for trainings, for workshops, ensure that we have women representation in there. There's also the component of youth empowerment. We must acknowledge that these are our next generation. So we want to ensure that the youth is aware of the value of Earth observation, so we can take them through hackathons and workshops and ensure that they understand these benefits. And in as much as we want to champion for women to be able to get their rights, we also need to understand that the greatest champion of women's rights is also the men. So for International Women's Day, we have a theme to choose to challenge. And I want to challenge each and every one of us to look into ourselves and see how do we challenge all these gender issues that we talked about. We need to look into them in our institution, in our daily lives, and start to challenge some of those things that have been made to be status quo, but really we should be addressing them. And also pass out the message by Michelle that there is no limit to what women can accomplish. And I like what Mother Teresa says, that I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. So each and every person has a role to play to create this ripple. Finally, on behalf of the AfriGEO community, I want to wish all women and girls happy International Women's Day. Thank you.
Absolutely, Phoebe. Happy International Women's Day. It's still a worthy cause. We still need to continue the work on making this world a better place also for women, and to benefit from the resources that women represent, as you very well described, and very interesting activities and a very interesting set of challenges that you have in Africa. Some of them we recognized. I'm from Europe. Some of them we recognize, and some of them are very particular for your region in the world.
Yeah. Yes.
So yes, thank you very much, Phoebe. It's very impressive what you do already. Let us move on to, you said, underrepresented minorities, and that is a nice segue to Diana, who will talk about Indigenous people and how we are including them in the GEO family, and even some hackathon. You mentioned hackathon in the youth, Phoebe. I think we will learn more from Diana now. So we will come back with more. You will be able to ask more questions and comment later on. Diana, I will give the floor to you. Can you introduce yourself? And we are excited to hear about Indigenous people and the work you do.
Thank you so much, and hello to everyone. My name is Diana Mastracci, and I am the International Strategic Liaison of the GEO Indigenous Alliance and the founder of Space for Innovation. And I'll just put up my slides now. So the GEO Indigenous Alliance is an Indigenous-led group that was formed in 2019 in Canberra, Australia. Indigenous people are at the forefront of climate change, and whilst they play a fundamental role in the conservation of our biological and cultural diversity and protection of our natural resources, they often lack the access to technology and are highly underrepresented in the Earth observation community. And one of the core pathways of the Alliance is to increase the participation of Indigenous women in Earth observation. And today I will talk to you briefly about the Indigenous hackathons. That is a method that we use to engage with Indigenous communities, and on planned activities for Indigenous women empowerment. So the Indigenous hackathons emerged from consultations with the Inupiaq community in the Alaskan Arctic on how to co-design software with and for Indigenous communities. The community was interested in a process that would allow their youth to co-design innovative and culturally relevant application using their Indigenous knowledge and Earth observation data, but there were no guidelines on how to co-design software with and for Indigenous communities. So I adapted the methods of a traditional hackathon, that are competitions to develop software, by incorporating the needs of the community. And we co-designed this new methodology, the Indigenous hackathons, that are aimed to increase the intergenerational knowledge transfer, because that's how knowledge is transferred in Indigenous communities, from elders to the youth. Increase cross-cultural communication with scientists and other communities, and maintain and strengthen local culture. So how does it work? The hackathons are divided into two phases. In the first phase, we run a pre-hack in which Indigenous youth consult with their elders and scientists and come up with challenges that are locally relevant and that can be solved using Earth observation data. Once the challenges are approved by their community, they become part of the final hack, which can take place both locally or worldwide. And throughout the process, the participants are mentored by experts in remote sensing, GIS, Indigenous knowledge, and technology development. And in 2014, we had our first hack, Arctic Science, in the North Slope of Alaska, in collaboration with Ilasavik College, the Mobile Collective, and Inupiaq Elders and Youth. And we have continued organizing these hackathons since then in collaboration with indigenous communities, but also organizations such as ESA, NASA, Geoscience Australia, and of course, GEO. And last year, we ran the Geo-Indigenous Hack for COVID in collaboration with 6 indigenous communities from around the world. We had 144 participants from 33 different countries participating. And currently, indigenous communities are at the most risk in the pandemic due to lack of communication infrastructure and access to public services. And this is just one of the winning team, the Visibilidade team. They actually just launched their Quilombola app that they've developed in collaboration with Claudinette de Souza, who is a Quilombola leader in Brazil. And the app is a tool that is allowing communities to become more visible by making it very easy for them to share their COVID stories just using a simple Excel file. And this is another team that won as well recently, the Symbols Map team, and they're developing a new way for indigenous communities to map their territory using local symbols instead of geographic coordinates. And they've been working very closely with the Samburu community in northern Kenya, and they're very close to finishing. And in December 2020, the Geo-Indigenous Alliance, in collaboration with the GEO Secretariat, organized the very first Geo-Indigenous Summit with a dedicated session on women empowerment. The theme of the conference, Indigenous-led innovation in Earth observation data, attracted over 1,000 interested participants from around the world, representing data providers, academics, indigenous communities, government departments, and various UN institutions. And the summit was successful in bringing together communities that have traditionally not worked together and seeding the foundations for future partnerships based on mutual trust and respect. And it was also an opportunity for dialogue between indigenous communities who are leading the way in the field of Earth observation data, data providers, and those who are just starting to work with Earth observations. So in the Women Empowerment session, we had 7 key speakers from indigenous communities from around the world, from Siberia all the way to the northern Kenya. And one of the main themes that came out of this session is that Earth observation is an important tool for indigenous women to participate in climate policy decisions, both at the local and international level. But we need to provide more opportunities for indigenous women to enter the EO domain. Many indigenous women lack exposure to information and technology. Titus Letapo, who is from the Samburu tribe in northern Kenya and also one of the founding members of the Geo-Indigenous Alliance, he pointed out that in his community, up to 90% of the women have not gone to school. And through his conservancy, he's working to increase the awareness of the consequences of early marriage and early pregnancies for the education of young women. So he's an example of what Phoebe mentioned, called the champions of women empowerment. As a result of the outcomes of the summit, we are currently working on developing tailored training courses with and for indigenous women to access and use Earth observation data and tools, to give the women skills and access to create their own geospatial data and allow them to include their knowledge in decisions at the local, national, and international level. And as well, it will be very important to continue advocating for investment in investing in communication infrastructure to ensure that everyone has access to Earth observation data and as well as public services, and to advocate for open and free and access to Earth observation data. And on behalf of the Geo-Indigenous Alliance, I wish everyone a happy International Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you very much. So I think we went from concept to actual implementation through this webinar, and the final, definitely by Phoebe and you, Diana, we really saw some examples on how this can be done, as well as all the challenges were described. It's quite challenging. Diana, a question before we move on. So what you described appears to me to be very much the same issues that we see or address in citizen science in general. So non-scientists and non-experts, both influencing decision-making processes and collecting data. Would you agree that this is very similar?
It is very similar, but also the knowledge that the indigenous communities are contributing, it's their indigenous knowledge, which has allowed them to adapt for generations in their land. So there are also some additional concerns that need to be taken into account regarding indigenous data sovereignty that perhaps might not be applied for citizen scientists. But the concept of having indigenous communities create their own data and create their own local records of climate change, it's very in line with citizen science. Yeah.
So, but there's an extra layer of political sensitivity, but also a type of knowledge and information that is very different from the rest of the information that we as citizens of the world have. Okay. Let me see. I had some more questions. I'm trying to see the chat here, but before I go and read more of the chat, I will. I asked you a new question. I asked if you belong to or engaged with indigenous people or underrepresented communities, and 40% said yes, 60 no, and nobody knows that they don't know. So that's just a piece of information for among our little group here. And so thank you very much for participating in that. I see we asked for some information from you, and I would like to tell the rest of you, if you haven't noticed. So Herman, thank you for telling us that you are managing a research project on deep learning with Copernicus Sentinel data for environmental policy support in Flanders, Belgium. And I know that artificial intelligence, deep learning or machine learning, oftentimes they are not necessarily acknowledging that we have not only men, but more gender diversity in the community. So I think this is relevant. Addressing these issues is also relevant to the technology that we are developing. So thank you, Hermans, for sharing your activity with us. And if you have links, please, to your work. We are very interested in, at least I am interested in learning about that. Robert, thank you also for being here and sharing your information. You're from Columbia University Earth Institute. EI, commitment to the so diversity, equality, and inclusion. I think, well, you have actually a link. Thank you for that. So we will check that out. Thank you very much. Helena is curious about Women Mentor Program, and I think that was for you, Phoebe, and you answered already. You can perhaps share your answer also for the recording here. Phoebe?
So so the way this started was with the survey program. We had this what we call the Women in Survey, which includes everyone, that is both men and women. But what we've done is to get the really professionals, the ones that are in that bracket, to talk to the ones that are below them and mentor them in terms of how their journey has been, what they have had to endure, and how they overcame all those issues in their career growth path. So we found that to be very powerful. And also, we also invite those inspiring women globally. So if we hear of anybody globally and we can get access to them, then we also call them. So this is something we'd also want to extend and see how it can grow to ensure that the mentoring continues. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And indeed, I think maybe it was you, I don't remember who said this, but maybe it was you, Phoebe, that mentioned that actually it's the role of men is significant here in achieving equality and recruiting more women. So all the women do have a father. So
yes,
and the father's role is very important to encourage and help women. I guess that's what you were referring to.
Yes, I was alluding to that and more, and saying that, so we're talking about all this empowerment, and in many societies, and particularly in Africa, the one that has been disadvantaged is the women. So sometimes when you're, as a woman, the one championing for let's have more fairness for women, you may be sending the wrong message, and we don't want to have that connotation. So we want to get more men taking that message and also saying that we need to empower our women more. We need to educate more women. We need to have more women in leadership.
Yes, absolutely. And for the record, in the group, in this subgroup, Equality, Diversity, Inclusion in GEO, we do in fact have several men as members as well. But today we are celebrating the International Women's Day. And as you said, having role models and just show the faces of women doing the different types of work that we are doing is important for the younger generation and, well, for the older as well. So can I get everybody back with their videos? And I will ask you if you have any comments, something you want to add based on what you heard. Yes.
Hey,
Allison?
I will just jump in to say that one thing that we're hoping is that by having a dedicated EDI logo, that it's something that we can apply to things like mentorship programs, the youth empowerment and indigenous hackathons, and things, even something like a good example of men championing for women. Something that we can use as a way to celebrate this and to really acknowledge that some people are actually going out of their comfort zone. I'm sure that in many cases it can be difficult for men to stand up and say we need to have more women involved or other cases.
Absolutely. It's in everybody's interest that we also benefit from the resources that women represent. Andiswa, did you have a comment as well?
Well, maybe just to say that one of the interesting things that I found with working with gender equality, diversity and inclusion issues, and in working on this policy statement was the broadness of the issues. You know, so it's not just about women being in the 50-50, or so to speak. You know. It's way more than that. It's how we engage. It's how we give each other chances and how we give each other opportunities. And maybe for me also recognizing that with where we're at when we're talking about the skills of the future and the challenges that we have with on skills and availability of skills, that women are actually an untapped potential to close those skills gap. That we have, and so there's quite a lot that with initiatives like the EDI we have that we can actually communicate and raise awareness on.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Then I would like to just add one more perspective or layer, if you like, and that is gendered innovations. So it's not, well, and this way you said it's not just about the numbers, but actually looking at also the a diversity perspective when we are developing, in this case, services and applications based on Earth observations, when we are collecting Earth observations data. We also need to look at are we the gender's perspective on innovation. So a good example of this is a Google translator, which is a artificial intelligence in a way, and they were in the early stage. They didn't distinguish between the sexes. It was only, everything was a he and him. So you can imagine what types of translations we got. It's a good example of gendered innovation, that you need to think that we are a diverse group. I mean, so, and context is also important. And the more we are using, we are talking more in GEO, and we are talking about, artificial intelligence and, using state-of-the-art technology. And we having this gender perspective on this is also something that we should advocate, in my opinion. Celine is muted.
Sorry, I'd just like to add that diversity is not only a question of gender, right? And the final purpose is to having the richest information, and the information, in this case, geospatial information, is the main tool for development, for territorial planning, for policy and programs planning in any country. So if we have the richest information, we can make the richest development. And the richest information is having everybody with our diversity situation, context, location, vision, right? Vision, interest, voice, etc. So it's making the better tools, the better instruments for the world development.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. And I like to invite again the public and also the public who is looking the video in YouTube. It will be in YouTube after the webinar, right, Bente?
Yes. So this webinar will be, go ahead and conclude.
Yeah, so if you see the video in YouTube, you can also contribute in the comment on our invitation to share experiences on assessment frameworks and any opinion that can help us to do better its work.
Absolutely. So the plan for this recording is to, of course, publish the webinar in itself in its entirety, with the possibility to make comments, as you said, and we will also edit each of the presentations, so it's digested in small bits and also more specific context where one or the other topic will be more relevant, and that's also where you can comment and be. We will try to engage you as much as possible. That's what we are aiming for at large. Before I close, I think we will draw the line very soon. I just want to acknowledge the engagement in the chat here. Marie-Françoise is saying, thank you for all your inspiring leadership. Some people think that the message we are bringing is already known by all, but it is not, and requires to be strongly supported, especially in crisis times, like the one we are going through with COVID. So true. These are times where situations can regress very quickly. Nothing is granted. I personally totally agree with you, Marie-Françoise. Thank you for sharing. Beatrice, thank you for your time and for your presentations and all these initiatives undertaken by Promote EDI and Women Empowerment. Yeah, thank you for being here, Beatrice. Okay, are we ready to pull up our arms and continue the work? Yes. Thank you so much, all of you, Allison, Andiswa, Celine, Phoebe, Diana. It's been a pleasure having you here on the Next GEO's webinar series. Make sure you follow all of us in social media, in Twitter, on Facebook, everywhere. And until the next time, happy International Women's Day, y'all. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.